Hi guys, my name's James Grayson and today I'm going to be talking about my placement with Blackpool Community Club at the sports camp. So, a little overview of the sports camp. It was located in Uni Academy in Blackpool. It was put on for kids aged from about 5 years old to 14 years old, Key Stage 1, Key Stage 2 year olds. It was Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. till 5 p.m. in the afternoon. It was £10 per day, and it was sports orientated and sociable and engaging for the children. So, what was my role at the sports club? So it was basically to help the coaches. So I was an assistant coach to the lead coach, and I was a mentor to the kids. So what did my role entail? So basically, I had to help out the current coaches, for example, setting up cones. I had to help the kids, I had to help organise different games. I also had to be a teacher, so I had to teach small things, just kids teach, for example, tying laces, different motor skills, jumping, catching, stuff like that. And making sure that the kids didn't misbehave and keep them all in track. So, moving on. So, basically, upon arrival, we turned up. Selena introduced us to all the staff, the lead coaches, and then basically we just had to get involved. We had to go in and socialise with the kids, form relationships. For example, we started getting given nicknames and stuff like that. It was kind of funny at the time. So when we was there, we were just basically helping them. Not as such looking after them, but it was helping them. So, for example, getting them more involved, motivating them, helping them out, even having fun ourselves. Myself got involved in certain games, for example, football and stuff like that. And so basically, this is what the routine was as it was a sports camp. It was more or less similar every day, and this is what this is more or less their routine. So at 10 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. it was a register, and to keep the kids engaged, the lead coaches would they'd play a little game. For example, they'd make all the coaches, lead coaches, assistant coaches, myself, they'd ask for our favourite TV show, and then from then on, as each kid got called out by name, they'd have to guess our favourite TV show. So for example, mine was Match of the Day. So one of the kids guessed mine, and then we had to do a certain exercise. For example, I had to do 20 push-ups. So it was just fun. It was the kids making us do stuff instead of us making them. It kept them engaged and behaved while we did the register. So from 10:30 a.m. to 11 a.m, just while we set up, we let the kids go and play. And from then on, they'd play with the toys, and even then we would go and play with the toys with them, and help build Lego and draw with them, and it just formed more of a better relationship. From 11 a.m. to 11:15, they would separate into year groups, maybe Key Stage. I think it was Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2. So there wasn't that physical barrier when playing the sports. It's not like we didn't say you couldn't play. So for example, if they really wanted to play that activity, then we wouldn't stop them, but we tried to separate them, so it was the younger ones and the older ones. This was just at the start. And then from 11:15 a.m. to 12:30 p.m, they would get involved in the certain activities. So for example, it was dancing on one side, sports on the other side, and then dancing would switch into volleyball, and then football would turn into another sport. We would just keeping the kids getting involved. So from 12:30 a.m. from 12:30 p.m. to 1:15 p.m. it would be lunchtime, and from then on, myself would go and grab some food, and then go and sit in a room with all the kids, and then they'd eat their food and watch a film at the same time. It just gives the kids a little time to chill out, eat the food, so they'd get more energy for the afternoon. So again, from after that, it would be register till about 1:30, and whatever coaches that hadn't had their name called out, well, their show called out, would carry it on. So then it basically kept the kids like involved, wanting them to make the coaches do something again, and it made them behave to some point. So then after that, we'd go back into another activity. So for example, we'd switch the sports up. If the kids on one side had only played dance and volleyball all day, and they wanted to play football, then we'd switch it up, and they could get involved in both, just so they could get involved all day and both have a go at each activity. So after that activity, more or less the afternoon, we'd get into other games. For example, Irish bingo. This keep the kids engaged. More enjoying for them than it was for us, because it was more for them, but it was still fun. So then around 3 o'clock we would go outside, and this is if the weather was good, and there was either general playground where all the kids would socialise and get involved with each other and play different games. For example, if it was tag or whatever, this was just general play, they had a choice. There was football sessions being held where the kids could get involved in playing football sessions, and then I was given an opportunity one time to run my own session, and basically it was myself and one of the other assistants versus all the youngsters, and then they just had to try and get the ball off us. Obviously we would let them get the ball, but it was just fun with all the kids chasing us around. And then moving on to the afternoon, then chill out again, general play with the toys, get set up and get ready to go home for about around 5 p.m. This is where the parents would pick them up. We'd do another register before they picked them up, and then we'd make sure all the parents came and they went home. So just I'm going to talk a little overview of what Blackpool Community does. And it works with local authorities, for example, local councils and stuff like that. And ours was with schools. Ours was Unity Academy. It was a school. That's where it was held. And it promotes health and well-being. So, for example, healthy eating and just general physical activity, keeping the kids active. And has a positive impact on the community. For example, kids getting involved, getting them off the streets, getting them to stop messing around on the streets and probably getting into the wrong groups or anything like that. It just helps them socialise and using sport as a sociable thing. So one thing that whilst I was there was one of the policies that we seen happen, which is health and safety. And what it was one of the fire alarms went off. And this is the first for me. As I said, I've not really done much coaching, but being put in this situation where the fire alarm went off and we've got to get a load of children outside safely to the fire assembly point on one of the AstroTurfs. So we had to get them all out safely. We had to do a register. Well, the lead coach would take a register, and then the kids would line up until it was safe to go back inside. I felt that was a good example of a health and safety policy, because it showed exactly how the community club ran that certain exercise. So I'm going to talk a little about sports development, and basically that's sports development is the promotion of sports activities for the community. Successful sports development depends largely on effective partnerships and networking with a wide range of community groups, service providers, facility operators, national governing bodies, local authorities and voluntary groups. This was by Hertsford Borough Council in 2016. So just listening to that and reading that Blackpool Community Club, they run quite a lot of them. For example, facility operators and national and governing bodies, local authorities and voluntary groups. That's Blackpool Community Club itself. We were the volunteers there as an example. So basically, with sports development, we tried to keep the kids engaged, and it wasn't we'd try and get the kids involved and try and learn new things, but we wouldn't directly teach them that. So for example, we wouldn't focus on improving basic motor skills. It would form a game, for example, a catching game, where we wouldn't directly teach them how to catch, but in that game involves is catching. So when they're trying, they're learning. So we didn't technically focus on just learning motor skills. We basically focused on the enjoyment and the fun out of it, and it just increased by doing this. It keeps the kids involved, and if they're having fun, more but word of mouth, kids get involved, and it gets kids into sports at an early age, and it increases participation. So I'm going to talk about Blackpool Community Trust strategies, and then in these I'm going to bring up the three main ones, and then I'm going to talk about them and how literature is linked with it. So, for example, education. So, at that sports camp, how did we work on education? So, how did we educate these kids through play and different activities? Well, the majority of participants were young adolescents, so teaching them basic motor skills such as catching, kicking a ball, and even dancing, and basic knowledge to improve their skills. And there's a little literature by Wolf 2007, and he states that people have to go through a learning stage in which consciously control their movements, but if conscious control is detrimental, the question arises, is it possible to learn new skills without directing conscious attention to the coordination of body movements? So like I talked about before, it was making the kids learn that, and this is how we linked it into the sports camp, and it was how the kids would play a game, and it wasn't directly to teach them these skills. The main priority was to keep the kids engaged, having fun, and also learning new things. Next one is inclusion. So how did we work on inclusion at sports camp? So inclusion involves this is Kilburn 2013. Inclusion involves more than merely the presence of children with disabilities in the community. Inclusion refers to the full and active participation of children with disabilities alongside children who have typical development. Kilburn 2013. So a quick example I could give here was one of the lads. He was called Max, and he had ADHD, and he couldn't sit still, and he struggled to engage with the other kids. All the kids thought he was mean, but it was just that he was more active, and the way we dealt with that was we gave him, for example, during registration, to keep him active, stop him from, bullying the other kids or pushing up, making noise. We gave him Lego to play with just on his own, and he would play with the Lego, and it would keep him quiet, and then we could move on to other things. Another thing was when we was playing football, he was quite loud and didn't want to necessarily get involved, and he was running off and just being a pest, to be honest, but at the same time, we dealt with it wisely, and we just got him involved. So, for example, in football, I would be on the other team, and he kept on running after us, and then would put another one of the assistant coaches on the other team, and then he'd have to team up with him just to make him more engaged. So, how does the community club tackle inclusion? So, throughout my placement, there was children that weren't so involved as well. So, for example, the young girls, they didn't want to get involved in dancing, they were dead shy. So, basically, from there on, I'd try and motivate them. So, for example, I'd say, could I teach you a dance move and you teach me a dance move? And then we'd both do it. So then, if I got involved, would she get involved? And it worked. So, I think that's quite a successful thing. So, moving on. Physical activity. So, physical activity, we encouraged all the kids to participate in all the activities. And the majority of activities involve the kids being physically active, such as dodgeball, football, dancing, jumping around, and basically being physically active all day. So, according to Tomprowski, McCormick and Pesk 2015, the link between physical activity and mental development has established. New research findings provide teachers with novel ways to organise and instruct classes that can profoundly influence the way children think and behave. So that's talking how we could link that with education as well. So the way that kids learn through play and sport, and they learn, different life lessons. So for example, we could talk about how sport and physical activity is linked to how kids grow up and how different attributes they have. For example, competition, fun, what do they enjoy, what keeps them motivated, stuff like that. So, moving on to, this is a statistics by the police, and it states that 32.88% of all calls in Blackpool and Flyde have been antisocial behaviour. So, with the sports camp, how does the sports camp tackle antisocial behaviour? So, like I said, 1,033 calls made in, 32.88% of all calls antisocial behaviour. How could we tackle that in the community? So one way that we did tackle it is these sports camps, getting the kids off the streets, causing havoc on the streets, stopping them from doing, causing trouble in the community, getting them all into the sports camps, getting them involved, and keeping them motivated and engaged into sport and using their energy wisely. So, before the actual my placement, what did I want to get out of it? So here's a couple of bullet points that I wanted that I felt that I needed to get. So firstly, it was the 30 hours, but that was just for the assignment. There is more. I wanted to gain confidence, experience, opportunity, guidance and motivation. And I feel like all of them, I could tick all of them off. And one other thing that isn't on there, I wanted to make, contacts for the future. And well, Selena is a great contact, but she also introduced us to other coaches. And whilst we're there, we was able to watch an actual interview for a coaching job, and that was a great opportunity to watch how to do an interview and how these formal interviews are and informal interviews are. And basically, in this interview, he had to teach a load of the key stage 1 children. He had to run a session, keep them all engaged, and then involve the teacher. And we watched the session and we listened to the feedback from the actual employer, and he said basically the good things and the bad things and what we should do in the future and what we want to get out of it. So guys, this is the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening.